This is the beard. I don't care who comes after me. Beast infection. Jersey ghouls, Jersey devils, whatever decrepit cesspool in Hackensack or Camden you've pulled your broken, decrepit bodies from. Nothing can withstand the beard, not even Paul London, hero of the prophecy. Here's a prophecy for you. You will not survive this beard.
Well, back. Oh my God. Well, welcome back to another episode of What Won This Week. Seems like the Geekscape Wrestling Federation is off to an exciting start. Who could possibly be the man behind the beard? We might not ever know. But I do see that someone that he called out is in the chat. Paul London. Do you have a retort for the beard?
Hello, this is Paul London. I think the beard is terrifying. I have officially retired from the world of wrestling and acting and comic books. Thank you.
All right. Well, we do have, however, Katie Hampton here. Katie,
I'm obsessed.
I feel like you got called out by name in that. You've told us that you're beast infection.
I know. And unmasked, which I'm still trying to figure out what the mask is, but I think I have a really gross idea. I'm so excited, and wow, spot on Paul London impression.
That was Paul London. Now we do have our third co-host here, Eric Connor, who would never speak like that to any of us. So,
no,
Eric, do you have any clue who the beard might be?
None whatsoever. I'm just the mustache now. The beard I have cut off. And
you idiot! I love it.
Oh boy. Well, guys, it's been a bit of a week, right? We had the Oscars on Sunday. Last night, Katie and I saw the debut of our newest Geekscape series, and nothing political whatsoever happened for 7 whole days. So what things do we have to talk about? This is the first time where I'm coming in with nothing on the top of my mind. So I've got a couple ideas. I got some ideas floating around, but I came with nothing.
It's a blank slate.
A blank slate. Now, I did see Katie prepping a bunch of random stuff behind the scenes. So, Katie, I feel like you're ready to talk about what won this week.
I am, and mine comes with a little backstory. So this week has been rough, I feel like, all around for a lot of things and a lot of reasons. But at least for me personally, you guys are performers. You know how the artist life is, where it's like being in an onslaught of incredibly depressing news and all this stuff. It's hard to create, and I found it really hard to create this week. And one of the things I said when I wanted to be an actor is like, I want to entertain people. I want to entertain people to help them feel better in life, because that's what got me through a lot of tough stuff, is entertaining people. But one of the memes that actually hit hard, really, really hard this week, is that Matt, I can't bring these up.
Which one do you want first?
That's how
Image
hard they hit.
4902. This one hit real hard. Artists trying to be their own curator, press, marketing team, administrator, technician, studio manager, art handler, social media manager, web designer, application writer, archivist, and photographer who documents the work all at once.
Feel that in my bones.
Yeah. It's like every artist needs their own team, especially in the social media world. So, okay. Another part of this story. A couple of weeks ago, back in actually like a month and a half ago or so, I went and filmed in Las Vegas. And while I was out there, I met up with a friend that I haven't seen in probably 20 years. We were childhood best friends. We grew up and went through a lot of shit together. She was one of my greatest friends as a kid, and I got to see her for the first time. And when we met, it was like it was right back when we were kids. It was so awesome just to hear. She is in air traffic control now. She works for those guys, and she had an incredibly tough week, and I completely forgot about this over like a month and a half ago. I told her that we were going to be doing a new show called Internet Supreme Court, and she had subscribed to it and to the Geekscape channel and texted me after what I personally thought was like not my best work last night, but she texted me the best message, and she just said, excellent deep dive on Chubby Bubbles. I definitely needed the laugh after today, and the whirlpool thing is definitely a sex toy for sure, Matt. Laugh my ass off. What a fabulous commercial. They just don't make them like that anymore. The room with the bathtub drain analysis were spot on. And that just like hit home for like why I do this, and to be coming from a friend that I hadn't seen in person in like over 20 years, to be able to say that, and to be saying that after a week of planes and rockets and lots of things going a lot wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it was just it meant the world to me. I started to cry when I saw it. I was like,
Aw.
oh, I'm glad it was so entertaining, because it was just like, I mean, this is what I feel like our whole mission has been, at least in Geekscape, is to be entertaining, to talk about entertainment, and to find the fun in everything. So it was just really nice to get that kind of a message after what feels like a tough week, you guys.
Yeah, I want to bounce off of Internet Supreme Court, which I mean, I think, you know, every first episode is going to have its like learning curve attached to it. But like, I truly was like, man, I hope that people are finding this as funny as I'm finding this. And I got like that firsthand experience, because there was a ton of drama in the Kelly household just before that continued until well after the record. Just kid stuff, just a kid situation that was taking a long time to fix. I won't get into that. But what after what felt like many hours of doing very gross work after recording, I said to my girlfriend Barb, who didn't get a chance to watch live, I really want to show you some clips from the live stream. And so we pulled it up, and I wasn't going to make her sit there for the full hour, but I was just kind of fast forwarding and showing her, like, here's the Substance commercial that Bacon did. Like,
So
here's like all of the crazy research Katie did to find this 7-year-old girl from a meme from 15 years ago. I showed her the entire Deep Heat tub, and I showed her Nate just trashing The Office for 5 minutes, and like the amount of times that she genuinely laughed, like legitimate laugh. I'm like, oh my God, we have something here. Like we have something that people are connecting to, and it's like, it's making me excited. I'm like, okay, like we're just gonna keep doing this every Thursday. But yeah, getting that initial response from episode 1 of like, people are loving it.
I got
good.
some other messages aside from my friend Rachel, but it was really nice to get feedback like that. And for those of you who did tune in and watch, or are watching just now, thank you for that. That, like, honestly, that means a lot, because, you know, I feel like sometimes we throw things against the wall and we see if they stick, and internet's a big place.
Yeah. Well, and also I need to jump on something that you've said before, because I've experienced this so many times. Are those beautiful friendships where like you don't see each other for a year or 2 years or 5 years, and then you see each other and it's like not a minute has passed since the last time you met. Like, you're just able to pick up the exact, like those are the friends that you keep for life. Those are the ones where, you know, I'm literally about to go, when we're done this, I'm going to go play bingo with a bunch of my friends from college. And that's literally been the relationship amongst us, is like, we see each other when we can see each other, but every time we see each other, it's like zero time has passed. You do like,
in case you don't know, Matt Kelly is actually 87 years old.
Well, it's a charity for the local library. Leave us alone.
Oh, okay.
He's one day away from retirement.
Yeah, we're
one of
my best friends is the children's librarian at the local library.
Oh.
So she organizes a bingo night once a year for fundraising because God knows the government's not going to give her any money for those.
All right. Put up a link. We'll donate. Now I feel bad.
Let's go. Geekscapegives.com.
No,
I'll
but
throw
like,
money at the guilt.
I'll throw
this
some
is-
couple bucks.
This is going to sound,
too.
and possibly because it is a little bit of fishing, but again, I've said this before, that doing Internet Supreme Court, I feel like the nobody who just stumbled into like the top tier improv comedy class with Bacon, Katie, and Nate. So to get the reaction that we were getting on this weird commercial that I found was that felt great. Like the people watching, commenting, and the three of you just like going all in on like, what is this commercial? And I could play the commercial right here, but I'm not gonna. You got to go find that episode of Internet Supreme Court and watch it and enjoy it yourself. But yeah, that's a great one. I love that. That's like a deep personal one, Katie. That's beautiful.
Yeah. No, it was one of those things where I was like scrambling before this podcast. I was just like, I don't know what to do. And then that came in. I was like, I know exactly what to do now.
Yeah. Now, how about you, Eric?
Well, my week has been, as Matt can tell you, filled with my other alter ego, which is the guy who's been watching so much Daredevil. And Matt, I'm close. I'm real close. I'm very happy. It's a little longer than 5 minutes, but there will be a fantastic Daredevil video for you all to enjoy after that guy did one already on Geekscape. That's fantastic.
Garrett, the guy,
Garrett,
not a guy.
Oh shoot, I called him. Now I got to recut it. Crap, I called him the wrong guy. Well, the Return of Daredevil is kind of sweet. It's not very personal, I suppose. And I was going to bring up the Oscars, which is also, after Katie's lovely story, it's not as personal. But I will say this: the fact that, all right, so I watched Anora real late, and as in like half of it the day before the Oscars, the other half after the Oscars. And for a movie, the first half hour of that movie, if you haven't seen it, it's filthy. And I say that with peace and love. Peace and love. I love filth. And it's got nudity, which I'm not opposed to. A little bit of male nudity. That's not a comment on the nudity itself. And a lot of female nudity.
Some.
Yeah, there was some, more than most, right? Because we all know male nudity equals NC-17, female nudity equals what?
PG-13 sometimes in the 80s.
Right. Oh, in the 80s. God bless the 80s. God bless it all. PG movies had nudity. It was such a wild time. But Anora, though, the first half hour, you're like, wait, this thing's about to win the Oscar tomorrow. And it was interesting, good. And then it gets great. And the reason I'm excited by this winning the Oscar, it just shows that sort of sea change that has happened with the Academy over the last like 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of movies that win, like Parasite won,
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Everything Everywhere All, which is that crap crazy in a lovely, wonderful way. Get Out winning. Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, I feel like the biggest change comes in the fumble, right? Like the announcing of La La Land and then saying, oh, I'm sorry, it's Moonlight. Like, I know that is like one of the funniest live blunders that's ever happened.
Right.
But it also
funniest
like
for you.
but it's also like symbolically the change of what has been winning Best Picture basically from that point. Like you get like a Green Book here and there, but like more often than not, I feel like the right picture has been winning Best Picture over the last 10 years in ways that I never thought were possible.
Completely. I mean, I remember years ago, the mid 90s, where like you had so many great indie films and they were making money and they were connecting with people, but they couldn't sort of crack that glass ceiling of the Oscars. Right. So like English Patient beats Fargo. Forrest Gump beats everything. 94, my favorite year in the history of cinema, but it beats Pulp Fiction. It beats Ed Wood. It which wasn't even nominated. Quiz Show, Shawshank, and I remember too in Fargo, which is such a brilliant film. One of the few films not called The Room that I've seen multiple times in the theater, and. And basically, there's a moment in English Patient when he's Ray Fiennes is holding Kirsten Scott Thomas. She's like, "I love you. I'll always love you," and the music swells. And it's like, oh, come on. And I remember, like, the Coen Brothers would make fun of movies like that. In Hudsucker Proxy, there's a moment they're about to kiss, and they wait for the music to swell, and literally, it almost looks as if the actors are waiting, and then it swells, and then they finally kiss. So it's like the idea that the filmmakers behind Fargo lose to a movie that basically does the thing they've sort of slyly mocked their whole careers. Yeah, the last chunk of years, movies like Coda winning, which I loved Coda, and it's small, intimate, personal, not crazy, just well done.
Pretty relatable and really well done. Like, and they can be wild and kind of out there, like Everything All at Once or Honora or something like that. But the unhingedness also connects to something a little bit deeper, which I've been really fascinated by.
Well, and Nora turns into a great character study. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Well, I was going to say, I pulled it up just now out of curiosity. So for the reference I was talking about earlier, the La La Land Moonlight situation happened in 2016. So these are what won Best Picture since 2016. I know that feels like it was like 2 years ago. It was almost a decade ago. These are all the Best Picture winners since then. And like I said, with the exception of really Green Book, these are not the ones that even 10, 20, or even 20 years ago, people would have put their money on being the winner of Best Picture. Is Shape of Water, Green Book, Parasite, Nomadland, Coda, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Oppenheimer maybe, and then Honora. Like, it has been kind of consistently not the Oscar bait movie that it used to always be. The big period piece with, like billions of dollars thrown into, like, Nomadland. Like, I'm pretty sure that's like one of the lowest budgeted films to ever win.
Yeah, but Nomadland, though, had a trend that I wish would continue, which was the shitting in buckets.
Yeah, well,
I'm kind of sad that more movies haven't done that. I was hoping the Eternals would have that.
I was expecting it too. Yeah,
and then when it didn't happen, that's why it sunk at the box office.
Yeah,
if you had one moment of a bucket with poop in it, $1 billion movie.
But again, like, listen, all of us here would love $1 million, but $1 million is not much in the grand scheme of like filmmaking. So for the Best Picture winner this year to be a $6 million budgeted movie, like,
but consider how much their marketing team had to spend in order to
throw into.
It's the Miramax,
I think.
Yeah. They put so much more money in marketing.
But that's where that money, goes to is kind of getting it in front of people and making it well known.
Look, I'm just excited that the creator of Greg the Bunny has a bunch of Oscars now. Like, that's very exciting.
More in one day.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how crazy is that? And it is, like you were saying, Katie, like, they're not just weird movies. Like, Everything Everywhere All at Once had the best line of the year. I'd just be here doing taxes and laundry with you. Like, holy crap, that's a beautiful line of dialogue. It's emotional. And it's like, as they can get weird, or they can be like, Coda's not that weird, but it just connects with people. And I think that was what was kind of special about Honora winning, was that it connected with the Academy. It connected with audiences in terms of, it didn't make crazy money, but it obviously made a profit. And then that means more movies like this will get greenlit, which is a real exciting thing.
Especially coming off of the Golden Globes, where, like, usually you use people look at the Golden Globes and see it as kind of a semi-cheat sheet for their Oscar polls. So coming off the Golden Globes, the expectation is like, oh, this is going to go to like The Brutalist or Amelia Perez.
Right.
Like, films that feel more designed for what has been always looked at as the out of touch Oscars voters, right? Like, it's 4 hours long, it must be great. Or like,
it's World War II, it must be great. It reminds me of that Kate Winslet appearance in Extras. Yeah, she's like, of course I'm gonna get, it's a World War II movie. I have to get in the Oscars this year.
And then when she won, remember when she won, like, Ricky Gervais said, see, I told you. And everyone who saw Extras lost their minds. Everyone else was like, what was that joke?
What is that?
I'm gonna piggyback off of you on this one, Eric, because I think the biggest thing that won for me this week was, like, in general, I could just say that the Oscars were, for a 4-hour show, a pretty enjoyable 4-hour watch. But I think the biggest person that gets credit for that is like, can we just have Conan host way more things? It was
He's the perfect middle ground. We've lost a lot of middle ground between a lot of us in this country.
we did, but also like Conan, what I was shocked by was even in this day and age, Conan was bringing that 90s late night, midnight Conan sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
Like the second that the giant dune worm was playing a harp,
Right.
I was like, this is the NBC no one's awake watching us anymore Conan humor.
Yeah.
That's like on prime time Oscars night. Like I loved it. And the opening monologue joke where he just walks out and says, "A complete unknown, a real pain, Nosferatu, just some of the names y'all called me on the red carpet." Like that is such a perfect Conan O'Brien self-deprecating joke. Like that, like all of that was great. The performance of Somewhere Over the Rainbow that kicks off the show from Ariana Grande was like like it was just so many things that I think they got right. And even the things that they got wrong were so insanely cringy that they were enjoyable. Like the people from Amelia Perez just singing instead of getting off the damn stage for the best original song. Adrian Brody just like talking forever. Like I hate it, but it's also like, well, that's a thing we're going to talk about forever now, though, is like those moments that are so uncomfortable and weird. Like,
I mean, it's no slap, but yeah.
No.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
But
that's
it's
what we're
nice.
all looking for, the next slap.
well, the funniest thing with this, I love watching the Oscars. That's like I love award season. I love watching award shows. And the slap year specifically, I was supposed to watch it with my friend, and I got to her house, and it was only after we got to her house that she realized that it was not available on any streaming service that she had. And we had no way of watching it. So instead,
no.
we just sat on her couch reloading Twitter over and over again to get the updates. And it was like, all of a sudden, we're just like, why is everybody talking about a slap? And we were like a solid like 3 minutes behind this cultural moment. Then we couldn't stop watching every like video edit that was coming out in real time about it.
You were
But
probably like, did they reboot that show again? Like,
yeah,
what
what
are we
is
doing?
happening?
Well, Katie, I think you might have been there when I was talking about this one Oscars, the La La Land one you mentioned, Matt. Like our DVR stopped recording, and we're like, oh, we just assumed La La Land won, and then of course my wife goes online, she's like, something weird happened. I'm like, what do you mean? And then that's when I looked through, and I was like, oh my god, like it stopped recording before the greatest moment in Oscars history until the other greatest moment.
The other greatest moment
is the slap, unfortunately.
But I remember I was watching it alone in bed when that happened. And I was staying up, like I had work the next day, and I was like, let me just get to the end. And it was like they announced La La Land, the people were coming up, and it was like, you know, like getting ready to like get under the covers. I go to get the remote to turn it off, and
What were
that's
you
when
wearing,
the guy
Matt?
runs
What were you
out.
wearing?
Nothing.
Nice.
But then the guy runs out and stops everything, and I'm like, what is happening? And next thing I know, I'm awake for another hour and a half because I can't even comprehend the craziness of what I've just watched. Like,
Yeah,
it was so awkward. It was the
it
most
was.
awkward thing I've ever witnessed. I felt bad for everybody involved, but also like it was like this weird symbolism. You know what I mean? Like it was like the symbolism of
Yeah.
like the white guy explaining jazz movie, thinking it won Best Picture, and then like actually
Well, it was
going to a movie about like the legitimate Black experience. What's like it's like this is insane that this is happening right now.
I mean, but it was a misprint.
Yeah.
They like had missed. Yeah, I can't remember what the.
Oh, they gave the wrong card. It was the best
They gave the
actress
wrong card.
card. And then
Yeah.
and then Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway are a little bit from their Bonnie and Clyde prime, and they didn't quite know how to say, I think this is the wrong card.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah,
they said that, then that accountant who should have been fired 5 seconds later would have been out there.
probably
You know,
was. I would
yeah,
imagine.
he was
Yeah.
taking pictures of Emma Stone backstage. It was a great thing that came out. Was like, yeah, he obviously, my mom used to work for that accounting firm a million years ago,
No.
and so
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
so
dude,
cool.
my mom never would have allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
She didn't do the Oscar. She did, probably like the Garment District in New York, but you
I
know,
mean, here's the flip side though.
yes,
Honestly, like as terrible as that situation could be, A, La La Land did just fine. People
yep,
still talk. I constantly hear people talking about how much they like La La Land. B, I think it made Moonlight even more noteworthy to be like,
yeah,
I think otherwise it would have been this like really unusual movie to win Best Picture, but like kind of a footnote. And this is like sealed it as a movie that people will talk about constantly, even if it's just in the context of like, remember when the Academy Award announced La La Land and it was actually this movie? Like it kind of helped the keep Moonlight in the front of people's minds every year that the Oscars roll
yeah.
around
That's true.
in a
That's
very
true.
strange way. Uh,
Oh.
but yeah, I mean, it was. I guess we haven't really talked about it on Geekscape at all, but it was a pretty good Oscars. Katie, did you watch as well? I can't remember if you did or not.
No, my brother-in-law was in town this weekend,
That's
and it was mostly college basketball for them. But
what a mean experience for you, a person who loves award shows.
I mean,
Doesn't like
I
college
do.
basketball.
I do, but I have it. I think I told you this because I know that you were trying to get some people to do a panel to
Yeah.
talk about like who they thought, Oscar predictions and whatnot. And I was like, I haven't seen any of this. Like I haven't seen a
I was
single
trying
movie.
so hard. I was trying so hard, and
I
Yeah.
again, I blame Matt because I've been daredeviling up the wazoo that
I
I
mean,
didn't see more.
I
Um,
blame people
How are
not
your eyes, by
making
the way?
many of those movies readily available
yeah,
because, like, I still haven't seen Anora. I'm gonna see it in 3 weeks when it drops on Hulu for free.
Right.
But like
get the
Right.
so
kids out
many
of
of
the
these
room.
movies, yeah, so many of these movies were so hard to like. I love the
Find.
movies and I want to support it. I'm not spending no $20 to watch The Brutalist in my living room. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
no, you go
Right.
see it, and that one too. It's definitely one you want to see large. And Bruce, by the way, I really enjoyed. If that had won the Oscar, I would have actually been impressed because it's a very different kind of epic World War II Holocaust drama.
yeah,
The
Yeah.
fact that it's so much about survival and survivor's guilt, the fact that none of it is actually set during World War II, it's all after.
yeah.
But the idea of like the pain you bring with you when you get past something like that, I found that incredibly effective. Loved, by the way, the performance. Everyone's been sleeping on is it Felicity Jones who was in that, who was up for the supporting actress Oscar. Um,
Okay.
she, I might have gotten her name wrong, but she was the one. She was in gosh, she's been in a whole bunch of things, but she played his wife who shows up in the second half, and it is like
Felicity Jones, you got it.
such a remarkable performance, and kind of got overshadowed. Zoe Saldana sounds like she did great. I haven't watched that one yet either.
I
Um,
hadn't either.
I did because it was readily available, so I watched it.
Netflix still?
And yeah, it's a Netflix
yeah,
release.
yeah.
The performances is not the problem in Amelia Perez. Like Zoe and Selena Gomez are like they're doing fantastic. It's more just the overall script and songs are
That's what I've heard.
yeah, but like it is the I also get very confused and Eric, maybe you can give more insight to this than I'll ever know. Like what constitutes the difference between like what they consider supporting role and leading
Yeah.
role? Because in my mind, Zoe is in Amelia Perez and it's kind of about her more than it's about the titular character of Amelia Perez.
Well, this is something that's come up a lot is like how they position different actors, because so much of it is it's really about what choice do they make in terms of what they submit them for. So the one I always go
Mhm.
back to, and I think I mentioned this on another plug, the Geekscape or the Black Cast Oscar special with
Okay.
Christian Blatt. Uh, we talked about like Collateral, where Jamie Foxx is in every shot of that movie he's in. Basically, he was up for Best Supporting Actor because he also was in Ray. And so, in
Right.
essence, the filmmakers behind Collateral were like, well, we don't want to. Also, I'm sure Jamie Foxx is like, no, that's the one I'm getting the Oscar for. Don't
Yeah.
touch. I'm not
Yeah.
going to submit myself for Best Actor. So they basically went with Supporting Actor, even though it is ridiculous. And I think that also happened with Kieran Culkin with
Yeah.
Real Pain. Same thing. And I think it's positioning. TV does this all the time. Like
Yeah.
Oh
the
yeah.
Emmys
I kind of
are
just figured that was
notorious
the
about that
case,
crap.
but I was curious
Yeah.
because as the only person of the three of us who's seen this movie so far, like the concept is that the mobster who will become Amelia Perez approaches her to get information, and then the first hour of the movie is just following her gathering all of the information for Amelia to transition. And then Amelia transitions, and then the movie jumps into the next time Amelia comes into her life. So it's like more about her story in connection to this person. And like Amelia Perez is almost like an afterthought of the plot, really, because that's not who it's really about. Like it is, but it
Yeah.
isn't. And it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, well, that to me, just from the script, her character is the main character.
Yeah.
like I guess, but in my mind, I'm like, that would be like giving, and it's happened for sure, but like giving like Michael Keaton the lead actor role for Beetlejuice
Right.
instead of
Yes,
Alec
they-
Baldwin, when like the movie is about Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's characters. And, like,
Well, like Anthony Hopkins, I mean, famously,
Yeah.
he's only in about 20 minutes of Silence of the Lambs and got the Oscar,
Right.
but you can't forget him, and his footprint is so large. But that was a pretty bold swing. But they
Yeah.
realized, like, well, how are we not going to put him in the lead actor with that presence,
And with
Yeah.
that performance too, yeah.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah. So
And then he did The Father, by the way, which might have been even better.
Yeah.
As a performance. Like that was the one. Remember, that was the shocking Oscar win during COVID times when he beat out Chadwick Boseman for Best Actor.
oh,
And everyone assumed Chadwick Boseman was going to win it. And by the way, very deserving performance. But
yeah,
if you see The Father, which is not the funniest movie you'll ever watch.
I would imagine.
Oh my God, though, what he
Yeah.
does in that movie. You think, well, this is one of our best actors we've ever had, and that's before you see that movie, and then you're
Yeah.
like, how can you
Really.
have more respect for him? You watch that film, you'll see, and it's brutal, but he's incredible in it. So
And this is
Ooh.
kind of the end of I feel like the Oscars usually to me symbolizes like the end of the awards.
Yeah.
For a while. Like we kind of get a nice
'Cause it
long
is.
break. Now it's time for wrestling.
Yes, WrestleMania is around the corner, dude. Hold on, how did Matt, the heel turn?
So I haven't been watching. I don't watch anymore. I watch the pay-per-views and that's it. I do think it's very strange but kind of delightful that WrestleMania is on Easter this year, which also happens to land on 420 for the weed smokers out there. So
It happens sometimes. It does happen sometimes.
Lines up so
And
beautifully.
yeah, what a
those Reese's
crazy
eggs.
day.
The problem is Passover floats around that time, and
Yes, it does.
420 does not put you in the mood for matzah historically. So that's
or
where we
waiting
get
until the end of the day to eat.
it's the short end of the stick, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
I went to an event that had a pasta bar on Passover, and it was through work. I almost quit. I was like, I can't have pasta right now because of Passover, and it was a pasta bar.
Oh, you
cool.
poor thing.
It was so cool.
Oh,
I'm like,
it's
and a little anti-Semitic, if I may say.
They should have just given you to-go boxes.
for 3 days.
Yeah, right.
Remember, Passover is 8 days of matzah, 8 days of not eating bread or anything good.
Yeah.
We know how to suffer. We're good at it.
I'm not. See, today's the first day of Lent. Already had
Oh, right.
meat. I could care less. Like I have, for a guy
Proud of
who
you.
works at a church. I'm like, dogma ain't church, baby. Like,
This is the new version of Christianity that
Yeah.
Matt Kelly is promoting. It's like dogma ain't shit, bitch.
like it's not like we had this really weird Barb and I had this weird conversation today because she grew up Catholic and now as most people say, and now she's atheist, which is the general progression of growing up Catholic. But she was like, "Oh, I haven't had communion forever because I'm divorced, so I'm not allowed to have communion." And I'm like, that is like
That's
so
right.
insane to me. That, like, because like the church that I go to is just like, hey, this is for anybody. Anybody who wants to come and have salvation. If the table's open. And she's like, "Oh no, Catholic Church, there's a ton of rules. You can't get it unless you've recently confessed. You can't get it if you're divorced. You can't get it if you've done this." Like,
Jeez.
and I was like, this is
I
why
re-
dogma ruins everything. Dogma's
Yeah.
the worst.
I remember back when I was like actually Christian and like going to a Catholic church, and they were like, "Oh, don't take the sacrament," and I was like, "Why not? Like, I'm Christian. Like, I don't understand." And they're like, "But you're not Catholic." I was like, "But what?
Yeah,
What-
that's some real.
what
That's like
denomination
the
is
most
your church?"
gatekeepy shit I've ever heard. Like,
Well,
Listen,
I was at my friend's wedding many decades back, and it was a Catholic wedding, actually Catholic and Jewish, and so both families were a little stressed out. And I remember they and they're still married. They have multiple kids, fabulous family. So as we say in Hebrew, Baruch Hashem, it's worked out great. They're doing communion, which I know is not even the term, right? It's taking communion.
yeah.
And my friend Bernie turned to my wife and I, who's also Jewish, and he just goes, "Don't go, it's a trap." And he said it so loud, and we had to like not laugh during this holy moment.
Oh no!
Mind you, his wife's Catholic, so I guess he can make the joke that we can't.
Right? Sure.
We were thinking it, I'm
Cammy,
sure.
Cammy, I really want to know what was it is.
Yeah,
it is-
we threw a bunch of
With the
stuff
beer-
out there as non-Catholic people, so I do need confirmation on which
I
part
do-
we don't have
which
true.
part it was that that is not actually true. I would love to know. I'm wondering if it's the divorce thing or if it's the you're not Catholic, you can't take the sacraments thing,
Or if it's all of it. If we're just talking,
It might
out
be
of
just
our
all of
asses.
it. I didn't
And
grow up
what-
Catholic. Mark did, and he wants to come
Well,
back. On
we're going to be
Christian
doing
Cringe,
a Lent special very soon
Yeah.
on
Ooh.
Christian Cringe.
Oh, I went to a Fat Tuesday event, which was great.
and- How was
there's
that?
It's fantastic. It's a group out of Burbank called Varietyville. That one of the things that won the week for me was this group in Burbank, and I know it's Katie lives local, Matt not so much.
Yeah.
But anyone in the
Close,
LA
but-
area, yeah, get out here at some point, man. We'll show you a good time.
Yeah.
And Jumbo's Clown Room, if you've never been, Matt, we'll start there
I love
and we'll
that it's the
end there
person
as
you
well.
always bring up.
Yeah, Jumbo. Well, listen, that's like the most LA thing I can think of, even more so
It
than
was like
Zanku
it was
Chicken.
after the show where Eric like crushed it and like told really great stories, and we were all like going to get like food or something, and he was like, "Jumbo's Clown Room? Is that where we're going?"
It was right near Los Feliz. Mind you, I haven't gone there for 20 some odd years, but the time I went, it left an impact. But it basically, oh my God, now I completely lost my train of thought. Sorry. So Varietyville, Burbank, it's fantastic. And it was live music. They do animated shorts. They have puppets. I mean, it is everything in the kitchen sink. And on Fat Tuesday, I actually went in sort of a costumey thing. And my wife's like, "Why would you wear that out?" I'm like, "It's Fat Tuesday." She's like, "Oh, okay, fine." And she put on something a little kind of funkier. We get there. No one else is in costume.
Oh
Just
no.
us.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
But
You
I
keep
won
telling
the
story.
contest,
I need
costume
to find this
contest. I
photo.
won. No, that was the story.
So-
I feel like there was you posted something because I remember that's when I was like, oh, I need to go get pancakes or something today, which is pretty much my everyday,
Yeah, right,
waking
right.
up trying to, but yeah, that's hysterical because I do remember seeing you post something to that effect.
Oh yeah.
Um,
No one else in costumes. But you know what? I won a gift card because they did it for a costume contest, and truly no one else in there was in a costume that wasn't on stage except me. Because I read
So-
things. When it says wear a costume, I listen.
yeah.
So my version of
Heifers.
that, my version of showing up in a costume and no one else was in a costume,
Oh my
goes back
gosh.
to when my
Your first date with
family.
Barb?
Yeah, yeah. No one gave me the heads up that I wasn't supposed to wear a costume on a date.
No, what?
So my family all went to Disney World for it was the end of October into November. So we were there for Halloween, which is also just like side note, if you're ever trying to get the biggest bang for your buck at Disney, the last week of October into November is the time to go because you literally get up until October 31st, you have all of the Halloween decorations. And then by November 1st, you go there and it's all Christmased out. Like they do the whole flip over in one night. So we were able to see both versions of the Disney park, which was kind of cool. But
That's very cool.
Halloween, we were like, it's Halloween at Disney. Everybody's got to be dressed up. And they probably were. And they were probably at the Magic Kingdom, which was like extra expensive on Halloween. So we're like, let's go to Epcot. And my whole family, I'm trying to find the picture, but we went out as all of the emotions from Inside Out.
You told me about this. Yes.
So, which my favorite is my dad, who is like the classic grumpy father, had not seen the movie, didn't know what was going on, and we made him anger because he was already in character.
Of course.
And
I love it.
The whole time he's just looking miserable in every photo. But we're like, stop being a grump. They're going to love this. Like, this is going to be a huge hit. You have no idea. And we start like walking to the park. And it is becoming increasingly clear that outside of maybe a couple children under the age of 5, there is nobody in costume at Disney. And like,
and I don't think you're supposed to, right?
well, but
Isn't
I
it
thought
like
that
a
this was
rule?
like the one exception to the rule because it was Halloween. Like, we're like, I'm sure it doesn't matter. So man, I can't believe I'm having this much trouble finding this classic photo.
I get the logic.
But
Yeah.
so we're walking around the park and like every ride.
This was my family as the inside emotions.
I love it.
That's
Oh,
pretty
super
good. Let me see if I can. I was very proud of my work as Fear.
Cute.
If I can find this damn picture.
Oh, it's so cute.
But we're walking around. There it is. Okay. So this was my family as the emotions.
Yes.
My mom is joy, my dad's anger, my sister's sadness, and I'm fear. So we're walking around this park, and every ride, the employees are just like, "Oh my god, you look so great!" like they're like,
love,
and
good.
it's making me feel great. But my dad is like, there are
Aw.
people that I don't know were just staring at us. I hate this. I wish we could go. And my mom keeps going, "You're doing great, honey. You're perfectly in character. This is great." So we see at Epcot Center a giant sign, "Forget a photo with sadness and joy," from Inside Out. And we're like, we've gotta. Like, we're dressed like this. We've gotta. So we walk into where the photos are, and it's like an hour and a half wait.
Oh, God.
And we're like, okay, maybe we don't have to that badly. And this woman who's standing behind us goes, I know, she wants to get a picture so badly. And like, I just can't stand to wait that long. And then she goes, unless. And so we go outside and she takes a photo of her daughter with us out, but like with the Inside Out meet and greet sign behind us. And all of a sudden I turn around and I see the costumes. I see the costume sadness wave over security and start pointing in our direction. And I'm like, we have to go.
We gotta go. We gotta go.
So we like leave and we go to Disney Springs to get dinner. And while we're waiting for our reservation, another little girl comes up and just starts hugging my mom. And it's like a little girl who doesn't speak English. She's saying something in Spanish, and her mom is in broken English, says like, she loves you. You're her favorite, like over and over again. And then they take a picture of the whole family with her. So my family is on at least 2 people's fridges at some point.
That is phenomenal.
I love that you almost got arrested by the Disney police.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe they should move that line a little bit quicker.
Well, Katie, I might have told you about when we once went as the Incredibles to a date. I might have told you about this. It was a daytime Halloween party one of our neighbors had. So Judah's now 14. He was a little baby. So we had him as Jack Jack, as a Jack Jack with the. We had a pacifier that had like devil's teeth, so we had
nice.
him wear that.
Nice.
But we were all in Incredibles gear, and I was around this way, maybe a little less, but me in spandex ain't a party.
Sure.
And Lauren was in spandex, looked much better on her, and my other son. We went out. We went all out. We go next door, daytime Halloween party. No adults in costumes.
Oh my
None.
god.
We have not been invited back yet. That
Oh,
was 13 years
no.
ago.
Oh gosh, that's so
Yeah.
okay. So this is
So much
reminding
shame.
me of an amazing story of a comedian. And I feel like we've all been a part of this. But it actually kind of ties into something that happened to Mark and I. But Katie Dippold is a very funny comedian writer. She showed up to a Halloween party one time, and it's a pretty, Matt, if you don't mind putting that up on the screen. She showed up as the Babadook and no one else dressed up. It is so good.
That's perfect.
It was like I can't remember the tweet, but it was like, or I think it was an Instagram post like TBT to the time I showed up in full costume as the Babadook, and everybody was really more in a like wine mood. But Mark and I, at one point, we showed up to what we thought was a Halloween costume party as Bob and Linda Belcher from Bob's Burgers. Mark was Linda, I was Bob, and
Perfect.
Mark had stuffed his like shirt with my old bra and like a bunch of socks and stuff, so he had like a whole chest. And it turned out to be a Halloween dinner party that we showed up fashionably late to, and and apparently Mark always tells this part, he's like, the guys couldn't stop staring at my chest. I had to take the socks out.
So funny. This is not my story to tell because I didn't experience this, but there was a meme that I saw, and I've thought about doing it ever since I read this. But it was somebody was at a Halloween party and they said that someone showed up in an all black jumpsuit. Like, think of like the Green Man, but like full covering every part of their body. And they showed up, didn't talk to anybody, and just mimicked random people's movements for roughly 2 hours, and then just left without saying a word. And no one to this day knows who that person was.
Oh,
That's amazing.
great.
I'm like, that is the perfect Halloween to me, is just going in, doing that, and leaving. Like,
It's funny. I don't usually like to dress up for Halloween because part of me, I like dressing up when I'm getting paid. And
fair.
else is coming up with a costume. But the one costume I did for about 3-4 years running was I would wear a t-shirt that I had drawn on it, and it just said life, and then I would hand out lemons.
That's a good one.
Everywhere.
So this is,
Good,
and
solid.
we'll wrap on this. I love that we're just sharing favorite Halloween costume stories
I know.
in March.
In
March 7th. Yeah.
But
Perfect timing.
so the girl that I dated before Barb dumped me on my birthday, which is in October. So we had already made plans to do a couple costume at my friend's Halloween party. And similar to your plans, Katie, it was going to be like a gender swap type situation. So she was a tiny little Asian girl. So she was going to go as we were going to do Lilo and Stitch, but she was going to be Stitch and I was going to be Lilo. So I was going to like have the coconut bra and the hula skirt, and she was going to have a Stitch costume. Very, very funny idea. Obviously, if I don't have a Stitch, I'm not going to this party as Lilo. So I had like 7 days to think of something. And the idea that I came up with and then redid as something else a couple weeks later was I bought an XL white t-shirt, and I got a hole puncher and I punched holes all around the sleeve and just strung markers to it and let people draw on me because I was a work in progress.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good one.
But then I repeated that later by wearing a bear mask, and I was a doodle bear from the 90s. Because turns out, friends who are listening, because this was in my like early 20s, if you want to ice break at a party where you don't know anybody, just let them draw on you.
Draw on you.
You will be everyone's favorite person at that party. Now you're gonna have a lot of dicks on you. Like that's just gonna be part of the ride.
That's a typical night for most of us. It's okay.
Yeah,
But it
me
was
especially.
like for me, who is like not great at just like walking up and especially in my 20s, not great at walking up and introducing myself to a total stranger. This was like the icebreaker of all icebreakers. I still know people who, when they see me, they're like Doodle Bear, like they're just like, so.
I don't know your name.
Yeah, feel free to take that. Do whatever you want with it,
Matt. If two crisp $20 bills got in your hand, could I see you in that Lilo costume?
You know what?
American.
I think
American.
You're overpaying. I can do it for way cheaper.
Fantastic. We're all winners today.
We know. Yeah, we are.
Well, guys, I think that this was an absolute delight. Sending it out there to the universe, as always. The big point of this show is, hey, try to find some wins in the week wherever you can, because it's gonna be a rough ride for a pretty decent amount of time. And also tune into Internet Supreme Court every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Stay tuned, because I'm sure Eric Connor / Eric Born Again will be on a future episode of Internet Supreme Court. I cannot wait. I think next week's going to be are we doing the whole first month with no guests, or
I have no idea.
All right, we need to start talking about that, because I think we're starting to get a nice list of who we should be inviting on. So maybe it's time. Maybe not next week, but very soon we got to start extending some invites. And Eric, this is the informal invite. We'll pin down an actual date later.
Looking forward to it. And remember, justice is blind.
And I think you are too from those glasses.
It's not going great.
Yep. And anybody watching, please comment what won the week for you too, because we like to hear and see and just be like, oh yeah, someone brought this up. So please.
Yeah. And if you ever miss an episode, guess what? There's also a podcast feed on Apple and Spotify and everything where you can listen to it. It's a very video-friendly show, honestly, but it still works. Get a rough vibe of what we thought won this week. But you're missing out on Eric with his glasses, so your call.
I'm telling you, he looks like Charlie Cox.
He does. It's a spitting image. We'll be back.
A lot of spitting, yes.
Well, we'll be back next week with more What Won This Week.